Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first TEMO Talkshow of the semester. I'm Webb, and I am your host for the TEMO Talkshow. I'm sorry that I missed you on last week's introduction day when you were with Søren and Sara. Today, you have the privilege of being the first of the semester to experience this talk show, which we're very proud to have started last semester. And the way that you interact with the talk show, just to refreshen your memory from last week, is that this is an integral part of your TEMO course. So we expect that you show up, we expect that you engage, and to get the best out of it is for you to have gone to the TEMO platform, to utilize the elements of the TEMO platform, reading the excerpts so that you're prepared when you come to TEMO Talk Show so that you can get the best out of it. Because this is your opportunity to really customize your educational experience. That's why we have designed it in this way, so that you get some real life experience. We have guests. We have 4 talk shows during the semester, and each week we have a different theme and a different guest to help give you another perspective on the curriculum. So we are really looking forward to you getting the most out of it. Prepare your questions, really engage. This is a great opportunity for you to, so when you attend live, it's really great because of the fact that it gives you an additional opportunity to not only ask questions of our guest, but also to interact with the TEMO team, the educational team, which is Sara and Per is over here, and Søren. Hi, Per Lange Jensen, because I don't believe you met him last week, right? This is Per. Would you just stand up for a minute since they didn't meet you? This is Per Lange Jensen. He is a professor in the TEMO courses, and you met Søren and Sara last week. And now we're going to move on with the talk show. So we are lucky to have received an opportunity to have as a guest one of the world's foremost leading global consulting companies, ATKearney, which is Andrew Thomas Kearney, who started this in, I keep saying Kearney, it's not Kearney, it's Kearney. Oh my goodness, I'm a little jet lagged, so please excuse me. But ATKearney, and it was started in 1926. It's now a global company with 59 affiliates or offices around the world in 40 countries, also thoroughly represented in Scandinavia. We have Christian Salling, who is one of DTU's own. He graduated in 2000 in innovation management, I believe, yes. Sorry, yeah, that was correct. All right, and Christian is one of the junior partners at ATKearney, and he's one of the core members of what they have. They have a health practices area. So he's going to give you a little bit more insight into his background and why it's relevant for engineers to be in management consulting, and he's going to give us insights into the art of case analysis. So please welcome Christian Salling.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks for having us. So, the art of case analysis, and that is a very good theme for us as management consultants because it is basically what we do. It is our business model. We have 3 topics to cover in 20-25 minutes. First, short introduction to myself, an engineer in consulting. How does that work? Then ATKearney problem solving, that's our terminology for the same thing. And then a practical example that we may or may not have time to go into details with, but I think it's a good practical example to illustrate what kind of challenges we are faced with. And this one is quite a complex one. So first, an engineer in consulting. So as was said, I graduated from here in 2000. And I did my final thesis in collaboration with Coloplast, a medtech company that you may know. At that point, I was offered a position with Coloplast. I was offered a PhD, and I was really in doubt of what to do, but I had this flavor of management consulting as a fantastic way of accelerating your learning curve and being exposed to a lot of companies, industries in a very short time frame. So I went for management consulting. I went for ATKearney because it has we have a strategic operational profile, so that seemed to be the perfect fit, and I have never regretted that choice. 3 years in ATKearney, starting as a business analyst, then progressing according to plan. Then in 2003, my wife and I, we had our first child. We found it was a good time to change work-life balance a little bit. And then a very nice position came up actually at Coloplast, where I had done my final thesis. I went for the position. It's called direktionsassistent, so executive assistant to the executive management team that developed into a role as director of the corporate strategy. After a number of years, I wanted to move on and also get a line management position, so actually managing people, managing a budget and a small business unit and so on. And this opportunity came up in Italy as a sales and marketing director for the wound care branch. I went for that, and we moved with the whole family to Italy for 4 years. I was promoted into country manager, so taking control of the whole representation that Coloplast had in Italy at that point. And after 4 years in Italy, I was invited back home as the senior vice president for emerging markets. So back home is an exaggeration because emerging markets, 180 countries, so my traveling days per year were exceeded 150, so it's a demanding job. After 2 years there, I was contacted again by good old ATKearney, and with a strong ambition to elaborate and expand the global healthcare practice, and I could not say no to that, so I returned to ATKearney in 2013. It says principal, it's the same as junior partner, and this is what I do, and I'm now a member of the core team within our health industry practice. So that's me, and I'm an engineer. I've been in consulting, in strategy, in sales. That was a really big question mark for myself. Could I do sales? The answer is yes. So don't worry, you can do anything. Country manager, that becomes general management, and then back into consulting. So that's an example of what an engineer background can lead to. I didn't see this coming, but this is how it evolved. Next, so case analysis. We have a different terminology. We call it problem solving, because when a company super good at doing what it does, when it calls for assistance, it's because they have a problem that we must solve. So we call it problem solving. And when we enter, we bring with us a methodology. This is what we do. We bring industry experience. We bring typically experience with this kind of challenge that they're facing, and we bring capacity, simply just raw capacity for analysis, for thinking, for getting things done. And then we bring our methodology to make sure that we have consistency in what we do, and we build quality in every step along the way. So this is our model. It comes in many different shapes and sizes. You probably recognize the big idea, but this is our corporate model for how we address a challenge. 5 steps. If we start from the top. 1, identify and structure issues and questions. Never to underestimate that part, because if you start solving the wrong problem, you go very far, and you have to go all the way back, and a lot of time, energy, resources wasted. So that is absolutely key. Once you've done that, you're not there yet. Then you take the next step, and I will go into a more detail. There's a situation description. Then there's a trigger point saying, okay, so there is this situation, but why are we here? There's a situation that triggers the need for change, and that is the trigger situation. And then we have the overarching issue. So that means we are here to solve boom, boom, boom. Before you just jump into that, you decompose it. And this is really a snack for people like you with a logic, rational way of thinking. Decompose a problem into its parts. So what are the main issues we are faced with here? And once you have those main issues, then before you start jumping into the problem solving, you define your hypothesis. And this is where the combined experience of the company that you work with and you as a consultancy must be mobilized so that you are sure you get the most likely hypothesis as to how can we resolve these main issues. Because if you do not do that, then we are into the approach that we refer to as boiling the ocean. You have a specific problem there you need to solve. If you don't find focus from the beginning, it's like boiling the whole ocean to find the fish or the stone that you're looking for. So this is really key in order to put direction and meaning into the work you do. Once you have these hypotheses, then you go and test. You either approve them saying, yes, this is correct, or you reject them. And the way we do that is always data-driven. So a lot of companies live for many years, and they live and thrive based on stories and things that people tell to each other and pass on. And 85% of that is true, but sometimes they're also just stories being told again and again without anyone ever testing if they actually hold water or if the circumstances have changed for the way they do business. So this is where we go in really deep and hard, and that is on the data. So testing, verifying, or rejecting all these hypotheses one by one and saying, yes, this is true because, or this is not true because. And if we dwell here a little bit and think of maybe you entering consulting, wanting to do good and having a role, and you may be in the same positions as I was when I left DTU. I thought 30 seconds, I can rule the world, I know everything, they can throw anything at me, I can solve it. And then the second after, I would think, I studied 25 years of my life, I know nothing, I have nothing to offer. That would be a very normal situation to go into. But find comfort in this tree, because to the left, there will be a lot of senior management partner time involved in setting the scene, defining the tasks the right way. As we progress to the right, there will be more and more middle management, junior time involved. And where you can definitely, and I would say in particular with the background that you're getting from this facility here, this part you will rock, I have no doubts, and we see that again and again. This part is really, really strong. So getting into the data, getting it systemized, and being consistent in building the data foundation for your hypothesis, that is a key thing for you. And once you've done that, then your role will just grow and grow and grow. Because based on the data, you will develop your findings. So what does this data mean? And who is better at judging what the data means than the people having dug out and systemized all the data? So once you've been through that, your role is incredibly important for the latter part, and you will see your role in the team, it will just increase and increase. Data becomes findings, findings become messages, and then the most important part, what does it all mean? What do we recommend you to do? When you're in consulting, you can say it's kind of a free ride, because we go in, we analyze, and we put a lot of recommendations on the table, and we leave. And then it's up to the company to accept their recommendations and make them work or not work. So it's a little bit, you're off the hook a little bit as a consultant. However, that's not how we see it, because here is really where we put our credibility on the table, saying, if I were Mr. Chief Executive Officer, if I were in your shoes, this is what, me representing ATKearney, this is what we would do. So this is a key point, and you will have a very big role to the whole part to the right there. Hypothesis, again, you need them, because without the hypothesis, you will just go in many different directions. You need them to give direction, and before you start testing them, you will have to ask all these clarifying questions. So this is a simple issue tree breakdown. How can we increase sales? Well, we need more customers, and we need more sales per customer. What does that mean? We believe this, this, this. How can we test it? Then you have your questions, and then you throw your data analysis, and you form your teams and your work streams, and you resolve it like that. You may have come across this terminology, MISI, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So when you decompose a problem into its parts, you have the problem at top. You say, to answer this problem or this question, I need to answer this, this, and this. And they should not be overlapping, because then you cannot address and analyze these three in parallel without having all these interconnectivities. So that's a classic, difficult but classic discipline that you must respect when we try to decompose and solve a challenge up there. They have to be exclusive, the dimensions of your analysis. And then you have to turn it around saying, okay, so if I answer and do my analysis and answer all these three, will that be sufficient, collectively exhaustive? So if we can answer these three, do we have the full answer to what we're looking for? And if not, then go forth and back, so you make sure you have your work streams and your analysis lined up the right way. And this is front loading, so you don't waste a lot of time down the road doing things that you don't need or that interchange in ways that you wouldn't want them. So this is very simple to say, very difficult to do, but this is a key discipline in doing good case analysis. So let's take just a very simplified version of how we work. So a situation could be this, if you remember the situation, trigger point. Situation, Copenhagen is deriving a lot of income from tourism. That's nice. However, now there's this opportunity or threat that Copenhagen can qualify or candidate itself as a host for the Olympics. We've seen by experience that can be a tremendous benefit for a city, but it can also ruin a city completely. So if we do this, how can we make sure that hosting the Olympics in Copenhagen will be done in such a way that it would actually benefit us? And then doing the whole thing, arriving at the key messages, well, we should actually address 5 key issues in order to make sure that this will be a success. And then below these issues, you will see the recommendations coming out. So this is just a very simple version of saying, okay, there is a situation, there is a trigger point, what is the key question we want to answer? And then we do our analysis, we come out with, yes, this can be done. However, be aware of these 5 key elements. And arriving at that, it's not a linear approach. We would like it to be. It would be easy for everybody, and resource effectiveness would be tremendous, and you just go from A to B in a straight line. It never is. That's never the case. You do the best you can to approach that situation, but it's never the case in real life. So the key messages, and this is also when you've been in there doing a lot of data analysis, you will have a key role to play in this part. So developing the best key messages at the end of this process, that is an iterative process always, and it's a team process. Team within the consultant company, team together with the customer, the company asking for your support. And it's a systematic process. You say, okay, we put all the cards on the table, saying, okay, what have we learned? And just list them. And that's the first iteration. What can we truthfully state based on everything we know now? Take all the statements and say, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is not true, blah, 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 on the list. Then you take the second iteration. Okay, so what does that mean for this particular company in this particular situation? And you get one step closer. And then you do it as many times as you can until you have this key message that really encapsulates, this is the problem we were set out to define, this is the answer. Forth and back, and this is a wonderful process. It's really, really interesting, and you can see sometimes things just change 180. And then final iteration, really, this is where you get the so what. This is key. You can talk and talk and talk. If there's no so what, it will just pass. So this is the key to solving the issue that we were invited into the company to solve. And it will trigger action. It will be actionable for the company. And then, of course, it answers the key question that was posted there. Coming back to the Olympics, this could be an example of how it could look like. Okay, the recommendation or key message, Copenhagen should actively address 5 key issues to achieve lasting benefits. How? They are then the recommendations. They are manage stakeholders, the blah blah. Consider larger pictures, social, financial concerns, mobilize communities, leverage events, resources, and build the national brand, and all these things. Still generic here, but it's a simplified case. So this is how we work. And again, nice sequence in theory. Sometimes it is if you've done it many times before, and that would be what any company that would hire our assistants. This is exactly what they would hope for. The companies, they run their business. They know what they're doing. When they invite consultants, it's usually because there's a change going on. And a change, if it's a company reorganization, most managers, they experience that, but it's something that happens maybe once every 2-3 years. That is not their core expertise to change organizations. Their core expertise is to run a business. So they invite us in to do these things. And what we bring to the table is then the capacity, as I said before, and the concrete knowledge about, okay, when you do a change management process, you have communication, you have HR disciplines, you have boom strategies and organizational structures, and we drive the sequence there. So a practical example here. This is a leading medtech company, known for, it's based in Europe. It's known for innovation, quality, top standard. It's represented globally for manufacturing. So in the early zeros, it was globalized and get the benefits from low-cost countries. Enormous numbers of products because it's been in the market for many years. It's a global company, global sales. However, as is normal for a European company, it's global. However, heavily exposed to Europe. 50% in US, 15% in emerging markets, 70% of sales in Europe. And what happened, what has happened to, we all know this story, Europe has slowed down. So what do you do as a company? This is now the trigger point. You are ambitious company, you are heavily exposed to Europe, Europe slows down. What do you do? Of course, there are two themes. You want to continue to grow in Europe, win market shares and so on. However, you need to redistribute your dependency on single geographies. So how to boost growth in emerging markets, how to boost growth in the US. And I will not go through it in detail. I will just say this is some of the work that came out of it. It looks busy because I had to cram everything down to one slide. You have the manufacturing company on the left. You have a person with a chronic condition needing the product. It could be diabetes, to take an example. So you go through a hospital process, you come home and you consume the products of this company in your setting back home. That is well described. It is easy to understand in a Western European healthcare system where you can get prescriptions and you go to the pharmacy and pick things up. Here, boosting growth in China, you have a completely different healthcare system. So you have a company looking into a market. It's some years back now, so it's more better described now. But you have a company looking into a new market, having a business model that works extremely well in Europe, but you're faced with a healthcare system that is completely different structured in a completely different country. How do you build your business system in a completely different environment like this? And that is just, this is a classic management consulting assignment, and it was a case that I like to show you. We can maybe use it in a case situation later. We don't have time to go through it now, but it holds so much complexity that this linear approach was just not possible. We did everything we could to mobilize the best hypothesis, the best thinking about this, but you cannot foresee and solve all the issues there. And many of the solutions that came out of this were actually quite surprising, where the company almost had to replicate the healthcare system because there were elements in the healthcare system as we know it in Europe that were just not there. So the company actually stepped in and bridged the gap for the patient, following the patient. One element, if you go to a centralized mega hospital, you get your surgery, you go back to a rural area, just getting your products, physically getting your products can be a huge problem. That would never be a problem in Denmark. So very basic challenges coming up here, and the solution to this was, It was a really, really nice thing to do, but really complex. And you go forth and back, and you test hypotheses. Many are rejected. You have to go back and see what did we learn from this, and what is the next step. So, did I use my time? I did. I would love to. I could talk on this for hours, but this is also chosen deliberately as a former or as an engineer in consulting, saying even in this, we do a lot of operations optimization, but this is just white space, new markets, new business model, everything. Trust me, you can do it. Be humble, be modest, listen to your partners and listen to the companies you work with, but don't hold back. A lot of this, the classic disciplines you learn here, can be applied in these settings, and your value contribution to even a complex situation like this. You will be surprised by yourself. Those are the words for now. One last thing, of course, if you have any interest in what I'm talking about here, we will send this through so you can see the information. We have different events coming up, and we have also our fixed contact person for you that you can call, you can write open questions, send applications. We have student positions, we have full positions, and so on. So if this has raised any interest from your side, don't hold back. And after the meeting, we also have 3 colleagues in the back. Could you stand up and wave? You will be here. You will be here, so you can meet myself and some colleagues for any questions. That's all for now.
Please.
Okay, thanks.
So join me. So I hope you have gotten some insights into the life of a management consultant with an engineering background from Christian, and are encouraged, especially you have this great opportunity to follow up by speaking with Christian and his colleagues after the TEMO Talkshow, or during the break. You can speak to them about potential future positions, so I think you should definitely take advantage of that. We are at this segment of the show where I ask Christian some questions that my colleagues and I have created based on what the curriculum entails and what Christian's presentation would be about today. After Christian and I are finished speaking, then we will have the TEMO Talkshow panel, and we will be connecting the dots. That's when Sara and Søren, I believe, will be coming up on stage, and we'll connect the dots between what Christian talked about and how it's relevant to today's topic in form of the curriculum. Okay? Are you guys excited? You have a lot of questions now? Yes, I can see it in your faces. I'm so excited, I can't wait. Anyway, in the meantime, here are the questions we will start off with. Christian, why is case analysis such an important discipline for management consultants?
Well, it's, as I said in my opening statement, it's basically what we do. Because when companies call for external assistance, it's because they are facing some kind of problem that is beyond their normal business, day-to-day business, and they need special expertise, capacity, and an approach simply to overcome this problem. So this is the heart of our business model, and it's very stimulating, I can tell you that.
Okay. So just something so you're aware of the fact, I was not ignoring Christian, but we are using technology, and so my colleagues write questions to me during the presentation so that we can keep it as relevant to what is actually happening live on stage in real time and how it's connected to the curriculum, as I was saying. So they write the questions, and then I write them up to add, and then kind of cook it up here on stage and deliver it back to you. So sometimes the questions switch orders, so that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm doing now. Okay, so Christian, how much involves the use of theory, and how much involves the use of intuition in your job?
Yeah, and that is absolutely not a trivial question, because you could think, and we do strive towards the situation where everything is fact-based. And you go by a theory, and we have our approach and so on. But it's a starting point, and we are trying to eliminate or test all the variables one by facts. and document that and package it and leave it also behind for the company to work with. But as my last case illustrated, sometimes there are no facts, there are no descriptions, there are no cases, reference cases you can refer to because no one has done it before maybe within the industry and so on. So you try to narrow the white space as far as you can, but then the last part you need to, this is where management comes in, or leadership, that it cannot be fact-based everything, and you need to take steps based on something, and let's call it intuition, or let's call it pattern recognition. And if we call it the latter, then that points even more to the use that we can do as consultants, because we are called, they call for us our support when we can document that we have done something similar many times before. And having done that, you recognize some patterns, and when you're out of facts, then you have to go with that. But in the end, that would be a leadership decision.
Okay, well that leads me.
That's where we have leaders, true leadership.
Okay, well this is interesting because as a engineer, I'm imagining that's could be a challenge, not working with the data and trying to go with your intuition. So how do you balance that difficulty?
Yeah, we have wonderful emails circulating with PhDs starting in our company, writing to colleagues saying, "Oh my God, I'm making assumptions. It's terrible." But this is just, you need to do it. You need to trust what you do and bring the facts as far as you can and really understand and try to interpret what do the facts tell us as findings and messages. And beyond that, you can also lean against the senior management, both of the consulting company and also of the company that you advise.
Okay, this is good you brought up assumptions. So can you get all the data needed for the hypothesis testing, and what do you do?
Sometimes, yes, you can be lucky, buy an analyst report giving you a lot of the data, and then what you try is to deduct the findings and translate that into recommendations. So given all this wonderful data, how should this particular company act? We also thrive in areas where there is no data. And what we always try to do is then we do a lot of assumptions and try to build the story bottom up. And then we go the other way around, saying top down, if we look around, what is reasonable to expect, and then see if they meet within an acceptable tolerance, that if you build it bottom up logically and top down based on experience, if the ends meet, then you're probably right. If not, then you have to test it again. So that is the art of ambiguity, and you must be able to embrace that and thrive in that. Otherwise, you will face some tough times.
Right. Okay. So how you work with the assumptions when you're starting off and you have no data, or you're in a new field and there's no pattern.
Yeah.
So how would you develop the assumptions based on something like that?
You have to be creative. A classic element is to look to other industries, other situations. It can be far-fetched sometimes, but really, who else has done something like this? And braking technology, it's obvious. You look to Formula One, or you can also look to the airline industry, because they have to break down the airplanes using both brakes and also I like the words, but all means available to arrive at that. And sometimes in unusual places, security, safety. Well, if you work with a mining company, they probably have very highly developed safety standards. And if that's what you're looking for, it may be for completely different purposes. But you find sometimes what you're looking for in surprising places. And this is where you need to be open-minded and creative in a structured way.
Okay.
So don't get lost out there.
Okay, so what is the most challenging aspect of case analysis, or in your terminology, problem solving?
It is to keep your head calm, do your preparational work well, so that you know exactly what you're looking for, but you also have a plan B and C in case that what you expect to see is not what will be documented by the facts or the findings. So It's a team exercise, and this is one of the most rewarding things, that you will have your specific role, but it will always be in a team, and you will experience that there will be points of reflection, if not every day, then several times per week, where we continuously ask each other, are we on the right track here? Are we doing the right things? Do we continue? Because it's full speed ahead always.
Okay, so would you say you're more driven by the causal explanations or the competitive solutions?
It's a mix, that's the correct answer, but you tend to find causal explanations always saying this, because of that, proven by this. And that has to be somehow, either way you go, that has to be the nature of your solution. And then you just have to be specific on where you have taken assumptions and where you have facts. And say, so you have you build some kind of justified true belief that based on what we've seen, this will be the recommendation. However, be aware we have taken this assumption here and this assumption here. And just document it and be open about what you have arrived at. And then it's up to the management teams to make what they find to be the right decisions.
Good. Which this is just like evolving beautifully, how it rolls into one question. When advising the clients, how do you ensure the recommended approach, you were just talking about approaches, how do you ensure that the recommended approach actually suits the specific case?
By working with them closely along the way. And it's not always the case. And sometimes what we do, it comes out that in order to pursue the recommendations in the correct way, that may lead to organizational changes or procedure changes or strategic changes. So one word is consulting. You could also call us change agents, because when we're there, it's because something is going to change.
Right.
And people usually know that, so people also tend to get a little bit nervous when they see 5 suits entering a company. But we are good guys. We do our work with discipline and professional pride.
Okay, well, this leads to probably the reason why they start to shake a little bit. What do you do when your recommendations, for example, go beyond the competencies of the managing director?
Well, that's a good question. Usually, the managing directors are in their position for a good reason. So I say more than 9 out of 10 times, you're dealing with very good, very competent people. So that is rarely the case. If it's the case, well, you have a customer inviting you in and buying you, and you respond to that customer. However, we always work for the company. We never work for individuals. So we will never adapt professionally developed recommendation to fit with a personal profile.
Right.
We would never do that. And we would leave that up to someone else to take those decisions. But we also do not work in a vacuum. So you need to make recommendations that can actually be followed by the companies that you work with. Okay. Otherwise, they are theories and nothing else. It has to be actionable, right?
Right. And so if we adapt that question just a little bit, because assuming that the managing director is competent, and even competent people can be thrown off by new technologies and things
sure.
that are just developing so quickly.
Yeah.
As a consultant coming in, do you actually go so far as to help them with their strategic development? So if you say, okay, if you do this for the company, this is going to be, we can see that moving forward, this would be a great advantage. However, if you need these kind of competencies, do you help them with helping to develop the competencies for example, not necessarily the managing director, but the team? Or do you kind of leave it at the strategic level, hand it over to them, or do you work with the different levels?
So there are many different kind of consultancies in the market, and some are specialized in people development and so on, and we are not specialized in that. We're in the strategic part. But of course, if a recommendation will require other resources, other competences and technologies, we will advise to our best knowledge about that, but we will never put names in boxes and so on. We will describe it, and then the whole people dimension is, of course, that They work. It is the responsibility of the executive management of the companies.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. Those are all the questions I have on record here
Yes.
from the TEMO team. I hope that some of you are out there with some burning questions. Do I see any hands? Anyone with some burning questions for question? Or about the presentation, about the questions? Yes? Yes?
Thank you. Both thank you for a very interesting presentation and discussion. I would like to ask, because some of you might not see yourself as having a career within management consultants, but how would you then say that case analysis competencies or the problem-solving competencies that you have presented here is relevant for engineers?
I think it will be very difficult to find a job position in any company that would not require case analysis quite often, I would even say, because I spent first 3 years in consulting, and now I'm on 2 years again in my second round in consulting. Between that, I was 9 to 10 years in one company. And when I woke up, I developed this 50-50 rule in my head, saying, okay, today I probably recognize 50% of what I'm going to do, and 50% will be new. And that's even the later days, after 10 years in the same company, in the same industry. Different positions, different markets, and so on. So just pay a lot of attention to this course. It's not something we agreed up front, but it is really key. And your ability to adapt and change and test assumptions, that is really key. You cannot repeat yourself just. Sometimes you can, and when you can, you should make that into an art as well, because operational excellence and the art of relentless repetitions, as some writers they write, can be a very strong, sustainable competitive advantage, but not alone. It has to be combined with how to apply that and entering new markets, new technologies. You will be there all the time, and making professional, competent decisions that will entail case analysis.
I'm going to just tag on to that, because it could be that for some of you out there, you're thinking, well, I don't want to be a management consultant. However, I would think that even if they weren't interested in being a management consultant, at some time they will be working with people in a company where management consultants come in, or where there are other people. So regardless of which side of the fence you're on, would you also agree that it's important that you're able to understand how it works so that you can communicate and understand?
Absolutely, it helps, and if you get the chance, so if management consulting is not for you, by all means head for the industry and then do wonderful, stimulating careers there. When you get the chance, when management consultants come, I would invite you to seek influence and seek participation in some of these projects for the fun of it, and to see something new, and also tactically, because again, when consultants come, it's usually because things will change. Better be close to the change than just having to live with the consequences that someone else is going to define on your behalf. It's not always a choice you will be presented for, but if you get the chance, I strongly recommend that you take it as an experience and try to work with the consulting team every now and then.
Okay, I think that my colleagues are coming up with a new question. Seeing some activity over there.
And for us, while the question is coming for us as a consulting company, the most demanding customers we have are ex-consultants, because they know how we work, they know what they can ask for. So,
may I ask you, when you are meeting engineers out in industry,
yes,
what are your major impression of how they function in their organizations?
I think that I am obviously biased by my background. So I'm very happy to meet engineers whenever I can. And me being in Coloplast is also no coincidence. And I usually, you see engineers in many operational roles, middle management roles, and also, say, tier 2, 3 in the senior management team. there is still an overweight of commercial people in the top management positions. So you would typically see engineers in very important positions on the operational elements, in the research development areas, in the middle management and upper management layers. And that is extremely powerful to have engineers there, because this is where you get the real change. You can have the direction being set by executive management, but materializing these changes will have to go through the middle management layers, with who can bridge a strategic direction into concrete actions in the organization. And there at that sweet spot, you will very often find engineers. And I think we should be happy with that, because I find engineers very pragmatic usually, and a very good balance between technology possibilities and people dimension, and also the strategic elements. I actually see that also looking to my own colleagues in consulting, I generally see engineers being very competent in developing strategic skills. Absolutely.
Okay, we have a question from the audience.
Do you
Sir,
get...
excuse me, could
Yeah.
you state your name? Stand up and state your name.
Yeah, my name is Alexander. My question is, do you get unlimited access to companies' data or information about new products or?
That is a very good question. And it's linked with the hypothesis. So you really try to specify, also because we're quite expensive usually when we come in. They want us to do a specific task, and then they want us out again, because we are costly. So based on, again, before you agree on a joint project, there's a long process where you really specify, this is the scope, this is the problem we're trying to solve. To solve this, we need this kind of team with this kind of resources for so many weeks. And then you agree and write everything up, and that's a contract that you do for the project. Based on that contract, you almost always also exchange a non-disclosure agreement. So everything we receive from the company is confidential. Once that is in place, we tend to get quite detailed information. But it's also always on a need to have, and then we ask, and sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't get it. But we always try to get as much information as we can. And then for us to survive as a company, it is absolutely crucial that it doesn't float around. So we are extremely disciplined with managing that kind of confidential information. But a very good question.
We have another one? Or other questions? Yes, we have a question. Okay, we have two more. Please stand up and state your name.
It's me. I'm Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
I just wanted to ask, throughout your career so far, have you noticed any sort of shifting trends, like, for example, more women in the workforce, or change focus towards sustainability, something like that?
So women in the workforce and sustainability, yes.
New trends.
New trends, the answers are yes and yes. And no. If we take the women part first, so the companies, again, with an engineering background, there's a tendency to have more men than women. However, yeah, I see a very nice mix here, and I'm very pleased with that. If we link to my industry career, when I was in the sales and commercial part, I actually had more female colleagues than male colleagues. And I was completely shocked when I came back to Denmark, to headquarters, to see all men once again. And I was also sad about that. Many companies have active policies saying that they would like diversity, and that's not just the male-female thing. They would like diversity so that the company internally reflects the society that it serves. But there's also, at the same time, they insist on professional, because being diverse and being fair is also to insist on the right candidate and the right profile for the right positions, regardless. So I think you should not expect to be better off or worse off based on your sex or any other aspects of you. But there is, we see the Commission for Europe so much talk about to get a fair split of the positions. It is definitely a trend, but it's not only, in my view, going in one direction. In terms of the environment, it is definitely a key trend, and luckily so. And many companies, they systematically report on their financial performance, but also on their environmental performance. And if we take a front runner like Novo Nordisk, they have triple bottom line. So they have three bottom lines: the financial bottom line, the environment bottom line, and then the employees. How are they thriving? So that's a very well balanced and a responsible way of running a business, and that we see only on the increase.
Okay, we have time for one more question. I believe there was a gentleman over there. Please state your name. Turn on the mic
Jeppe.
first. Okay, Jeppe.
When
Hi,
you
Jeppe.
come in as a consultant with a team,
Yes.
how do you manage your team and how is your workflow? So far in our curriculum, we have read about some management, some business models, and how group functions. So how is your workflow with your group when you come in to analyze the problem, and which tools or models do you use?
Well, we have, in terms of tools and models, this was a simplified version, but what is more important, a management consultancy, we don't have factories, we don't have anything other than people. So our investment, our asset is people. So getting the best people that we can attracted to our company, and getting these people stimulated and developed and challenged the best way possible is core to what we have to offer, because the professional and personal integrity of the people is the personal and professional integrity of the company. It's a one-to-one correlation. And it is, and this is what I find extremely stimulating, both as when I was a junior and now in a more senior position. It is not very hierarchic at all, because that would be stupid. What you need to solve a situation is to have the best knowledge mobilized in the best situations. And that can come from a junior member, it can come from a senior member. That varies completely. And I can honestly say that if a junior person holds the most precious information, that junior person will hold a very important role in a team. And we have a system internally on a global scale saying we are now being approached by this kind of company. We never exchange names, so confidentiality is key. But this kind of company in this kind of industry, talking about something like that. And we circulate these mails. I get 10, 15 mails per day, and I read them all, saying, am I knowledgeable within any of these areas? If I'm knowledgeable, having done something, or having worked with one of these the companies, I raise my hand saying, call me, and then I will introduce this to you. And this is also how we set the teams for different tasks. We mobilize the global knowledge base that we have. So you can have a team of an Australian together with an Austrian and with a Dane, and that's extremely.
Yeah, but your question, it was kind of two-part. Jeppe, your question was two-part, was it not? The one part was dealing with the teams and the personal, but you were also questioning the models, right?
Yeah, which models did you use? But I'm more interested now in how do you facilitate these groups in facilitating in the one that had the most knowledge of the subject is not being pushed by some more dominant participant in the group, or how the inner group workings might be a little twisted if somebody is too dominant, or somebody is think they're more knowledgeable than they actually are.
Okay. It is not simple, because you do have many big egos also in consulting, and you find them also in the industry. So it is not straightforward. It is an aspiration that we all have. One of the most powerful tools is that actually every time we've done a project, long or short, there is an evaluation, and that evaluation goes top down and it goes bottom up. So there's a formal process in which we fill out some and have an interview with everybody. It actually already starts before the meeting or before the project, where you sit together. In theory, it's not always the case that we come around to do it, but sit down and exchange expectations. and then midway, and then the formal thing is when you close. So you simply get a score every time with a verbal comment, and that goes both ways. And having poor upward feedback is not very good for senior persons. So there's a strong incentive to make sure that everybody feel that they can thrive and contribute and develop personally the best way possible. That is the theory, but I will not be naive and say it always works like that, because you have big egos, and that's part of the business as well. It's a very good question. Yeah.
For today's presentation part of our show. We are going to take a short break, 5 minutes. No short break. We have no time for a short break. So, oh, okay, sorry. Okay, great, all right. 10-minute break, and you have the opportunity to speak to Christian and his colleagues over here on the left side. So go over and do that, and do what you have to do, then come back, and we will be meeting with Søren and Sara, who will be putting it into context. Søren, did you want a mic?